can start as soon as you see the music.
Hi, a very good morning and a warm welcome. Extremely pleased and glad to be here. Personally, glad to be back in office at least. Feeling much better, I would say, from a normal day. Welcome, Mr. Tarun and Mr. Ram. I have very two eminent, speaker and friend from the industry to talk on a fiery topic on a fireside chat. I think it's not unknown to us that COVID-19 pandemic, caused a major disruption in one area of business, that was supply chain. The impact was such highly disrupted that we could actually first time see what is the impact or the degree of impact in an interconnected world of supply chain. There have been numerous disruptions across the upstream as well as downstream. It's starting from import issues, supplier going out of stock, inaccurate demand forecasting, FG stock out, inventory piling up, unavailability of transporters because of various other reasons, etc., etc. So while the first part of pandemic last year landed up, or we all landed up in a world of surprise, I think we all know that in last few months we were caught a bit underprepared, I would say, and in some of the sectors we really felt the pinch of it. So I believe that this is an apt topic to have a fiery chat on, because the way businesses are transforming today, the way we are becoming more and more digital. If we do not fix in any of our business the supply chain part of it, you will land up having three big problems. One, your customer engagement will have an issue. Second, your brand, will have a big impact because you will not be able to fulfill demands. And third, your forecast of business leading into pricing, all will have a ripple effect on the business. So on that context, next 15 to 20 minutes, it will be great to hear from two people who have dirtied their hands much more than me in this area. And especially I would say that they have steered their own organizations in last 15 months through such crisis. So welcome, Mr. Tarun, and welcome, Mr. Swaminathan, to have this conversation with all of us. In fact, the question is to both of you, and any one of you can get started, that how are you viewing this from general preparedness now going forward? Because, something like this is probably there to stay with us. Once we hear of one strain going away or getting listed, we keep hearing about a new strain. Today, we keep hearing about something called a Delta Plus. So, we will not be out of this event for some time. And business has to come back to normal. Business has to scale. Consumerism, we hope with the indications we are seeing, will slowly go up. And hence, the businesses for tomorrow needs to be much more better prepared. So, if Mr. Tarun, you can go first, maybe, to give us a bit of a perspective of, because you are in a industry which is extremely heavily supply chain intensive, and you were all caught for surprise to steering the organization through tough times, and now being ready for the new normal. So over to you to hear from you your perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Goswami, for having me here, Economic Times, and I'm very happy to share my perspectives on this. And I think, first of all, Zydus Wellness has a set of products which are very essential in nature, food products and nutrition products like Complan, sugar-free, Glucon-D, Neutralite, and also some personal care products like Everyuth and Myself. So we were at a point in time where we had to supply some of these products which were very essential in nature for consumers in lockdown era, or even when they are recovering, Glucon-D becomes very, very relevant. And some of these products had to be made available. I think what pandemic has really taught us is that people are central to everything we do. And sometimes while we know the importance of people, but employee centricity has taken a very different meaning altogether. And actually it's not employee centricity, people centricity, because it's not just our employees. We have few hundreds of employees, but there are thousands and thousands of people who are fully dedicated to us, who work for us through various partners that we have, whether at a front end through a distributor where there are salesmen who are working dedicated to us, whether it's our CNS where there are people dedicated to us. There is 25,000 farmers who supply milk to our Aligarh plant every day, for which we make complaints. So, and casual workers, whole lot of. So we are talking about the whole ecosystem which has to be taken care of, and any problems at any part of the entire value chain could affect what we are out to do, being able to provide the crucial essential products to our consumers. So therefore, we didn't think only from our immediate employee perspective, but we thought from the whole value chain, where people in our supply chains, upstream, downstream, we had to think about all of these people. And some of these work for MSMEs who are not able to provide all the supports like we as a company as Zydus Wellness can. So we had to think about providing them resources, whether it was medical help, medicines, financial supports. We went out and provided financial commitments and insurance to people who are working for our distributors or for our CNFs, providing some other supports that could be made possible for our other partners that who are much smaller and needed help to keep them up and running. The last piece that we've really focused ourselves is this is the time when we've really relooked at keeping our business alive through relooking at our SOPs or drafting the right SOPs so that the possibilities of mishaps reduce. Mishaps I'm talking about where we have to shut down a plant because there is a high level of infection. We did go through that situation last year. So we are ensuring that we have the right COVID appropriate behavior right through the value chain. SOPs are put in plants. The entire piece is thought through end to end, and we are able to ensure we are training and providing vaccination to our people. So I think that's really where we have focused most of our attention on, because some of these things we learned last year and now we're preparing for the future. And if we put all the SOPs right, infrastructure in place, we'll be better prepared for the future.
Thanks, Mr. Tarun. So coming to, Ram, to yourself, you are in an industry which is like an enabler to this whole supply chain, and the enablement is dependent also on various, factors, transportation, people doing different roles. How did you come out of this crisis? Because, if logistics fail, even if we have the best of goods or services, probably, making it reach the last mile to the consumer is a problem. And that is what you are faced with. So with all the moving parts, how did you plan? How did you steer yourself out of this storm?
So thanks, Somick, and I think Tarun said a bunch of things which I think we've done as well. So I will kind of not repeat that. But I think from an overall perspective, obviously, we believe the way supply chains are fundamentally designed will go through a transformation. Historically, supply chains in our country and across businesses have really been designed to provide, the products at minimum cost with the shortest lead time. And there's been a huge focus on cost to serve, and clearly the pandemic has changed the paradigm in some measure, if not in great measure. For us as a company, I think we really try to focus on 3-4 things. First one is we stress tested all our supply chains. A lot of the supply chains operations we have obviously are for our customers, and we did a lot of work on actually stress testing all our supply chains, doing multiple scenarios with our customers, and being kind of prepared for that. I think that's going to be a continuing factor as we look forward to a lot of volatility over the next 12 to 18 months. The second thing which we really try to do is drive a lot more integration across service lines. What we found is that supply chains inherently historically have been interdependent but not integrated, right? And go-to markets for many of our customers have become very blurred, right? And therefore, integrating across service lines between transportation, warehousing, between the first mile, and driving alignment across those has been really important. The third one has been investing in technology, really to enable the first two, right? Which I think has been really critical. And the last one, and I will just echo this, though Tarun already covered this, has really been a huge investment on the human element. At some stage, no matter how much you invest in technology, all your models go out of the window. Right? And the hand at the steering wheel actually becomes really important. So in our business, we've got thousands of employees who are picking products every day in warehouses, who are part of larger ecosystems. We have transporters, drivers. And so bringing the human element back at the center of the way we address this has been very, very critical. And I think those did allow us, the focus on timing integration solutions, our discipline around workflows, workforce, shop floors, re-engineering processes, I think allowed us to come back pretty well in the second to fourth quarter. And I think overall preparedness, I would say, is actually better, is fairly good. Kind of like the earlier wave, global trade flows are better than last year. Goods are moving across countries, though transportation has become more expensive from a cross-border perspective. And supply chains have responded. I think where demand has not been a problem, I think supply chains have responded, like cables or durables or electronics, as lockdowns have eased. I think fulfilling volumes has been something which the industry and service providers like us, I think, have been able to get back on in fairly quickly.
Thanks, Ram. That was a great perspective of how to integrate across service lines. Really like that point of view. And Tarun, you spoke about what all you did. Primarily, always planning used to be for uncertainty, but I think last 15 months it has been planning in uncertainty. So planning in uncertainty is always very difficult. So do you think the whole approach to supply chain planning has got challenged the way traditionally we used to all plan? How is that going to evolve? Any perspective on that?
Sure, Somick. I think when we acquired Kraft Heinz business and and we were integrating the whole thing, we were understanding that we need to prepare ourselves for a different level of future readiness. We were preparing ourselves for a very different, more digital way. But I think this whole fundamentals of planning and the approach to planning has got challenged in the way last 1.5 years has been. And the level of agility that benchmarks we would have thought 2 years back, 4 years back, no more hold true. And therefore, I think planning is undergoing a dramatic shift. And so before I talk about planning, I think we've actually now gone back and re-looking at our manufacturing footprints itself in terms of business continuity. We were looking at deeper one place, larger plants for each of our products. Now we are looking at how do we ensure that we have multiple locations where we have sufficient capability and capacity to move. I think last year when one of our plants was down for 3 weeks, we did move very quickly to work with some third-party partners who we already have existing relationships with. But we've actually already started re-looking at our manufacturing footprint to have a business continuity built in. Now, when we look at our normal planning, and that was a more long-term planning, but also planning in short and medium term. I think the agility that we need to do and the way we need to do is changing. Earlier, we would typically work with 1 + 3 month plans, and so I think it's not just reviewing last year that we were doing on a weekly and at a certain levels. I think now we are looking at how we can respond or prepare ourselves for even a demand sensing and response times at a much shorter times, far more nimble environment. So as we are implementing our digital planning tools with some of the big guys, the question I have had and we're discussing is that how do we, not worry only from a COVID perspective, but also start looking at creating a far more nimble environment and start responding to those because disruption, this is one big disruption. There are certain amount of disruptions we'll always have to get used to. And also, prepare ourselves for a very different ways of working. So we are relooking at cycles which used to be much longer, 4 weeks, 90 days kind of cycles, being crunched to a weekly, both demand sensing as well as fulfillment cycles, and a far more agile way of responding to those situations as we speak.
Thanks, Tarun. So taking a cue from that, Ram, if I come back to you, as a service provider to somebody like, say, Zydus or Zydus of the world, are you seeing the business model of engagement also evolving and changing? The demand, the way you would look at, from a service provider angle, the whole engagement with your buyer, is that also getting challenged? Is that also evolving?
Absolutely. I think, Somick, I think as Tarun just mentioned, if I kind of look at it differently, the way we consume and the way we make and sell is going to go through a fundamental shift. And given those two factors, I think the way supply chains are evolved will also change. And the way we partner with customers will also actually evolve very differently, right? And so, and that's clearly something which one can visibly see as we partner with our customers. There's a big shift, I think, from cost to serve. Traditionally, when we work with our customers really talk about, the big variable you really had as a fixed thing was your volume, and you try to manage outcomes given fixed, kind of driving a predictability in volumes. I think now the move really is towards saying move from cost to serve to cost to win. Minimize my cost to win business as opposed to minimize my cost to serve business, right? See how you can actually manage across different elements to drive more agility. And so the engagement, I think, has become far more strategic, right? Because it's no longer just at a physical process layer, but you have to bring both agility in redesigning processes, but also in the way you manage and share information with your customers to support their decision-making models. And I think many of us have made that change. For example, last year, I think as we came out of wave one, we sensed very closely with many of our customers that there will be a big pent-up demand. Those supplies fulfillment have to be more regionalized, and we work very closely with them to build up flex capacities, right? Which would come on and shut down in 4 to 5 months. Right. In fact, last year we bought in 1 million square feet of capacity and hired 10,000 people. Just for 4 months, we brought on facilities, shut them down across different geographies based on how they sense demand and how they want to kind of regionalize fulfillment. So I think the nature is going to become much more about how you can co-create design and how you can enable decision making as opposed to how can you just be a plain vanilla service provider. Right, working towards a cost or delivery construct. And that's definitely a change just happening.
Fantastic points, Ram, both from you and Tarun. I know we are running out of time. I wanted, if you can both 30 seconds give a perspective on, because there's a huge focus around the whole net zero commitment. The ESG play is becoming extremely important, both from a buyer and the service provider perspective. So quick snippets on that before we bring it to a close. Any one of you can go first.
So I can go first, Tarun. Or Tarun, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'd say sustainability is very much bang and center of the conversation, Somick, right? But that said, I think the challenge for us in the service industry is how do we drive sustainability in supply chains without asking for significant premiums for that, right? So the question is, how do I make sustainability par for the course? And not an kind of additional offering. And this is where I think the larger challenges. Logistics are a very important area, I think, for industry as a whole to drive sustainability in. And where we've been able to drive that without significant premiums, I think we've seen a huge amount of benefit, whether it's driving solar energy in our warehouses and facilities. We launched an electric vehicle last mile delivery service last year called EDEL, which is now pan India across 8 cities. And we've been able to, and in those service lines, we've actually delivered cost per package is actually lower than ICE-based vehicles. in many cases, right? And when we are able to deliver that proposition, I think there's a huge amount of potential demand for it and huge amount of adoption. So my summary is, I think sustainability is very critical, but I think it's imperative that both industry and service providers like us both have to drive that migration, right? And in the long run, one cannot expect a price premium for being sustainable.
Thanks, Ram. Tarun, a quick snippet from you.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick, but I have a couple of points to talk about. First of all, I think what this pandemic and what the current environment has shown is that risk management and business continuity has taken a completely different meaning. And I think, like Mr. Swaminathan talked about, it's no more just about cost to serve, but a lot more and cost to win. But having said that, I think this sustainability and social and the whole ESG piece is becoming very central, and it is not just led by the current COVID situation, but I think the more and more realization for everyone that this is the right way to do business. And my learning in this is, you can look at any of the global examples. ESG is becoming almost imperative. And a crucial learning which I want to share was that they are not at conflict in terms of our cost focus also. Several of our sustainability initiatives, we've seen that we've been able to do it, helping us also reduce costs of doing business. Because we have to look at a total cost of doing business and not just at one element. And several times we've been able to, be successful in managing both what normally appear as contradictions. So clearly, I think this is the way future will evolve for all of us. We may need to find solutions ahead, but this is going to be imperative and quite embedded in the way we do business as we move forward.
Thanks. It was amazing, getting some of these, absolute nuggets of the business nuances from two people who have dirtied their hands on this. Before I hand it over to the host, I think 2-3 big takeaways, which Ram and Tarun spoke about. The world will move towards more about co-creating products and services working together between the service provider and the service buyer. Second, technology will become an imperative part of making the last mile happen. Care of the ecosystem becomes absolute imperative importance, and ESG will be part of the course, and it is not going to be just a value add to be provided. So it will be part of an integral business plan as we move forward. With that, I would like to draw curtains to this discussion. Enjoyed thoroughly being with you all. Over to you, host.
Thank you.
Thank you, Somick. Thank you, Tarun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Somick. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you so much, firstly, Somick, for beautifully spearheading that conversation for us all. And thank you very much, Mr. Tarun and Mr. Rampraveen, for joining in. I believe we managed to actually gather some wonderful takeaways, all those takeaways that will be very integral towards driving business in the future. So thank you so much again for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Well, I must admit, ladies and gentlemen, in fact, from the session, we'll also be moving forward towards our next particular address, a special address that's around a topic which is to do with if the world will actually see real normalcy. So somewhere, I believe that the speakers in the previous session have set the tone for the next. And why I'm saying that is also because once again, we will be having Mr. Rampraveen Swaminathan, Managing Director and CEO Mahindra Logistics, to probably give us a little, if I may say, reality check if the world will really see any kind of real normalcy. And I think I'm extremely eager to find out the answer to that question. And I think it'll be interesting to see what Mr. Rampraveen has to share. So stay with us and we'll get the next session started in just a couple of seconds.